Hello. I'm back after a while, and today I bring you a 3D model I made a few months ago now. It finally finished animating a few weeks ago, and I'm making this video finally. It took a bit, mostly because I am multitasking too much. I'm very good at multitasking too much. I have too many projects. Oh my god, I need to finish some of them so that I have less on my list of stuff to do. But yeah, I made this. Hell yeah. This was a learning experience. I do already feel like remaking it because there's some issues with it that you will see later on. The biggest one being the fact that I merged it all together into one object because I, in a moment decision, made the mistake of merging it all down so the texture could all be in one thing, which leads to a lot of cascading issues, and I am not happy with it. Because basically that affects the way that the weight like the weight what when you want to move it and animate it, what affects what. That means that it affects stuff that it shouldn't affect because they should be separate objects, but they aren't. So now it deforms kind of weirdly in ways, and that's kind of difficult to work with. And I have to hold myself off of remaking this one already because I want to see and learn a bit more before I remake it. So that because I know, like, by the time I remake it, if I do it now, I will want to just remake it again and again, and it will be a loop. So I'd rather sit down, make some new stuff, learn some more, and then probably in a year, so next year, come back to it, or later this year, come back to it and be like, hey, I've learned enough. Time to remake this, time to rectify some of my mistakes. And also something I want to do next time is actually give it a face pick. I didn't make a face for this one. I mean, not like different facial expressions for this one. I just went with a basic one. But yeah, so many things to do. I haven't 3D modeled since I finished this one. I should do that again. But alas, my list of stuff to do is busy and my time is limited. So little time, so much to do. It is a tragedy. But yeah, what can you do except try your best to finish everything that you want to and keep on surviving and going. And also hopefully pace yourself so that you avoid burnout, because oh god, that's always an option. Burning out, I mean. It's not a good option, but it's an option. But yeah, that's about my thoughts for this. You will see the process here, and half of it was the modeling, the other half is the texturing, a bit of assigning weights. I did a lot more assigning weights after this was done, because that's when I actually started to move around and try to figure out how it actually is working with movement. So there's some part of the process that you won't see, mostly because it also is very wiggly and not the most interesting, in my opinion, to watch, I mean. And also I don't like showing that part because I'm still very much self-conscious about it, kind of, because I'm fucking around and figuring out so much with that one. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing not fuck around and figure out. Thank you for joining today's sample session. I do not have a script. I don't know if you could tell. Oh, you definitely could. But yeah, rambling. I do actually have a bit of a topic for today, and that is vulnerability in art to ramble about, because I knew, hey, I'm only gonna ramble about the process of this for a few minutes, because it is I made a cake. This is how I made a cake situation of, like, you can see the process while just looking at the video, and I don't know enough to explain anything that I did. I'll be like, hey, here's some cool tricks, because I have no idea what I'm doing. I need to figure that out at some point, what I'm doing with 3D, but I don't know yet, and I'll get there hopefully at some point, but I'm not there yet. I still have a lot of learning left to do. not of nothing around also. There's many things that I want to turn 3D that I just don't have the time for. But yeah. Vulnerability in art is something that I've been thinking about and just been kind of ruminating about quite a lot quite recently. But also at the same time, and these are still thoughts that are boiling and will change with time. So this is not my full opinion, because my full opinion will change, and yay. It is just something I've been thinking about and considering a lot recently, as I'm trying to come to terms with it, because because it's scary. For the most part, that's it, it's scary. Because if you want people to connect with your art, you have to be willing to be vulnerable with it, but holy hell, people can be pretty scary, and putting yourself out there can be pretty scary, especially if you're a bit different or a bit weird. It can be terrifying, and learning how to be okay with that is something I'm still doing. Because I did realize, like late last year, that I have been holding myself back quite a lot, due to just the fear of being vulnerable with my art. And not really pushing myself too much, and very much staying in my comfort zone. Because I was scared of being vulnerable with it, and that's something I'm working on. No, that is actually also just a huge part of why I stopped live streaming, or took a break from live streaming, because I am still coming to grips with being vulnerable with my art while I'm being here with myself, and I don't know if I'm ready yet to have also people watch me while I am kind of exposing my vulnerabilities, I guess. It's spooky. It is very spooky. And that is something I'm actively working on, but and it is scarier than ever, I think, for me, with how it's going in the world and all of that. Also, sorry, thinking. I have also been coming to grips with several things, because I'm also coming to grips with what I even want to share, because holy hell, it's my decision, people don't, how do you put it? People aren't entitled to vulnerability, I guess. Like, I've been coming to some grips with just like being trans, and people don't, like, you can just decide to not come out, and that's fine. If for whatever reason, because it can be tiring to, it can be quite tiring. Damn, it's tiring. Because non-binary, if I want to be seen as a non-binary person, I need to come out again and again and again, because you can't pass as non-binary in a way that doesn't instantly out your trans. So I've been just coming to the point where I'm like, I'm too tired of coming out again and again, so I just stopped telling people. And that's fine. And learning to be okay with that being fine is something I've been also just dealing with, because so many trans stories is about being open, loud and proud and about it, and that's amazing, but it's also really tiring. And I don't know, like, there's a lot of days where I just can't do that because it's so tiring. Existence shouldn't be a revelation, so to say. And it should be okay to just exist. And if that means coming out to people, and that's fun. And I mean, I'm out to all of the important people. It's like, it's one of those, like, hey, pick your battles. For me, what I've come to is like, I'm out to all of the most important people, but if I barely know you, especially offline, because on the internet it's easier to just be like, hey, I'm out, and that's fine, because you can't do anything to me in person. Hopefully would be kind of scary if you could, but especially in person, just being okay with being like, hey, it's none of your business. So in the same vein, that's also how I'm starting to think about art, of like, hey, I'm picking my battles. What am I willing to put out there? In what ways am I willing to be vulnerable, and what am I keeping to myself, is something I've been thinking about quite a lot recently. And I'm still thinking about it actively. I haven't yet come to an active conclusion, and I am probably not for a while. And yeah, my answer will change with time, because growth and learning and life changes, and I don't know, I just need time to figure that out for myself, I guess. And being fine with taking that time to figure that out is also something I just hadn't given myself before. Because, once again, it's, at least from what I've seen, there's so much push for people to have the answer, to be loud and proud and all of that, and learning to be fine with just existing as you are, even if it's shoddy, like your old shoddy self, and just being fine for a bit, not needing to be someone else, just being your old shoddy self, making the art that makes you happy, and just being happy the way you are is something I have been trying to get to. Because a lot of my life is colored by the colors of mental illness, quite bad mental illness. So getting to even have the mental capacity now to be more vulnerable in more controlled ways is actually a huge win. And not just being like in a space of like, holy shit, I'm not doing well, I need to share this, or I'm gonna crash out or something. It's already a huge win. So I think that's also why I haven't really gotten to consider a lot of this stuff before now, and why it is currently so much consideration, so much to consider. And also, even like, once again, even if I do want to be vulnerable, in what ways? I had a project that I actually shelved not too long ago, because it was hugely about capturing the colors of the person, so to say. And I realized I don't want to tell that story in that way. And that isn't something I want to put out there. So I ended up shelving it, and I am happy with that. Even though it's always really scary to shelve something, especially if you put already a lot of time into it. And it just means that I do want to try to put my conservation going forward into what I am trying to tell, what I am trying to put out there, and what stories I do want to share. And it's difficult because there's no right answer. The answer is personal and all of that, and like it is with everything. I mean, I don't know. TL too long didn't listen for the videos. I don't know. I am still figuring all of this out. for myself. And this clown is actually kind of like this one is actually kind of topical to that, because this is in fact my depression clown, as I like to call them. It is a very personal one, and this one is actually recently redesigned. It used to look quite different, and I decided to redesign it out of funsies, and I realized, hey, I am starting to be more fine with putting that sort of stuff out there, and I'm starting to be fine with that sort of stuff. I have a comic that I made and actually put out like around this time a year ago, actually, 1 year anniversary EP. And a lot of it is touching upon my feelings of depression, and it is a story I feel like I told now, so I want to be able to tell new stories also. And it's also why I shelved the other one, because the stuff I want to share I already shared with that comic, and the stuff I don't want to share I just don't want to share or touch upon, at least not now. That might change again. And also something I do very much know is like you do have to be a bit vulnerable, because if you aren't willing to be vulnerable, especially with art, then people won't connect to it, because it's going to be very distant and it's going to feel very distant. It's also something I notice with a few like creators I follow. All of the art is very distant, so to say, and it's beautiful art, absolutely stunning. I can't connect to it because it's stunning art with no feeling expanded to connect to, and that's scary, isn't it? At least I find it kind of scary to put in so much time but not allowing people to connect to it because you yourself are too scared to be vulnerable. And I'm projecting here, very much projecting. I'm just me and my feelings about it. Once again, critique and projection is a reflection of the self and not actually a reflection of the person you're analyzing, sort of stuff. And yeah, that's what I've been up to. In the sense that I've been also just working hard to go get some projects out of the door, so I can get more experience and can get better at stuff, because hey, I want to get better at stuff. I want to learn. And I have the rare opportunity, and I don't know when I will have it again, if I have as much freedom to just do stuff as I do have right now. I don't know when that will happen again, if it will happen again. So I've just been grinding away at personal projects quite a lot. I haven't actually done a lot in illustration recently. And also besides that, I've also just been getting really into reverse 1999. It's an issue. I might have started to draw a theory for that, because I adore the idiot lesbians very much, and they're very fun. And that's also a new step for me, just being fine with making that sort of stuff and not beating myself up for it. And it's also something like, hey, you can make that stuff without beating yourself up or feeling ashamed, especially if you're raised as a Christian. Blur to my personal experience, not blur to the whole religion obviously, but just especially when you're queer and also raised Christian, learning to be fine with existing as you are and not feeling shame for the way you are is difficult. Because it's I being told, like, even if not directly from a very young age, that you're different and that the way you go about stuff or think about stuff is fundamentally off is something I've been trying to get over. Because it does, it did leave a lot of scars, emotional ones. And that's just the queer Christian experience trademark. I do know that's a thing that a lot of people have gone through and needed to grapple with. And I am grappling with it, bit by bit. It is just also taking its time. Yeah. Because I'm in a lucky space where I had a lot of those types of childhood experience between being queer but in ways I didn't know existed, and also being neurodivergent, which I just didn't know and only got a diagnosis, are both things that have colored my experience in the way where a lot of my fundamental years consisted of being very aware of the fact that somehow the way I existed was in contradiction to how I should have or was expected to. So learning how to grapple with that and being fine with being more vulnerable, especially in art, which is already such a vulnerable thing, is something I've been dealing with. Because it is really hurtful, even when people aren't telling it to you directly, to very subtly pick up on the fact that you fundamentally aren't good enough for what society wants of you or what is expected of you, not due to any specific stuff, but just due to the fact that the way you exist and the stuff that you do being done in the wrong way, I guess. Both with being ever ace and relationships and the way relationships are expected, to being neurodivergent and the way that you're expected to go about stuff. All of that just building up to a big being taught that the way that you exist being fundamentally a failure, not to, once again, not to like anything specific, just because it is such contradiction to how you expect it to. So it's never enough, and learning to be fine with it. Once again, being fine with being your shoddy self, being fine with being a bit of a weirdo and a bit of a freak sometimes is something I'm being more vulnerable with. That is something I am very much still grappling with. Because learning to being fine with being so more vulnerable is difficult when said vulnerability was always just punished by people. Once again, not even on purpose. It's the small ways that you'd never even notice if only notice in hindsight. And that has been something I have been unpacking quite a lot recently, and learning once again to be fine with, and how to deal with that. It's difficult. And I wish I had answers to that, and I wish I could just say hey, but I figured out I'm fine now. But I'm not. I'm still dealing with it. I'm still learning. And I'm still trying not to feel ashamed of my more vulnerable art. I'm still trying to not feel the fear of putting stuff out there that is more vulnerable. For my comics, if I'm being fully honest, I just post them and then I never look at the comment sections because I'm scared of what people's reaction could be, because I'm scared to be heard. I mean, who isn't scared to be heard? But I'm scared that history will just repeat itself. And that's fine. And I'm sharing these thoughts not as a, hey, I want people out there to be nice about it, and hey, family please, because I don't care. This isn't as a, hey, I want appreciation. I will once again not look at those comment sections. I'm sorry. This is a vulnerable video. I'm not gonna look at it. I'm gonna post this and then run. I'm putting this murder out there as a, on the very, very side of chance that someone that kind of was like me when I was younger comes across this, knowing that they aren't alone. Sort of thing. Because especially when you grow up different, the worst feeling can sometimes be just not knowing if there's anyone like you out there. And I mean, the internet is on the one hand good at connecting people with, hey, there's people like you out there, but at the same time, finding those people and the right people can be so incredibly difficult. And it also kind of requires you to have the social skills and the, like, being okay enough with being vulnerable to even allow yourself to put yourself out there. And especially if you've gotten hurt so often as a kid. Sometimes you just aren't ready for that, but then what do? You aren't ready to be vulnerable enough to find people, but you also aren't fine with existing the way that you are, and how do you go about that? And I don't know. That is very much of an individual answer I've been trying to. I spent a lot of my life trying to find, and I think I finally found it for myself. And I hope that some people out there, that if people out there need to find it for themselves, that they'll find it at some point. And yeah, those are my thoughts on that. It is probably, oh god, it was like a time, oh god, I rambled on for long enough. It is my time to leave. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you were fine with watching, like, listening to me ramble for a bit. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me. And yeah, I will go now. Bye bye. Hope that you have a good rest of your day and or night. Bye bye.